I believe that one of the most important concepts or virtues needed to heal from the inside out is honesty. Because sometimes when people project their pain on you, they can tell you things that are untrue. Um, you can define it or label it as manipulation. You can label it as blackmail, whatever has happened in a situation. For me, it was denial of the truth. And one thing I tell people, and even myself, is that your body knows what you experienced. Your body knows that. And so, the most important thing that can happen is to affirm that someone hurt you or that person hurt you. And often we seek apologies. In my case, I did not receive an apology for something that happened to me as a child. And I wrote a poem because you can wait for a long time for someone to apologize, and they may never own the truth of what they did. And your life does not wait or cannot wait, or I'm going to encourage you not to wait on an apology. And I wrote the poem Freedom from Apology, that I knew that it was important for me to continue my life. I knew that as a child, that it was important. Cultivating my inner garden, resisting labels, the importance of integrity, the importance of keeping your word. And this is Timika Chambers. You've been listening to me on Create a Generational Love Cycle. And I've been talking about this year how my mother's words of wisdom, the same ones that I published in a book, The Inner Garden, 53 life principles rooted in a mother's wisdom for cultivating harmony, health, and inner peace. And I believe that's what we all seek in this world. And we do deal with projection of pain. We do deal with people that at any given time, including ourselves, that we have not healed from from painful experiences. And I know for me, what was consistent in my life that helped me was my mother telling me that if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And in that promotes honesty, integrity. For me, it is the very first thing that when I experience someone not speaking the truth, I said years later, I wanted to cultivate integrity. I think I spent time unconsciously as a child speaking the truth because I prayed for the truth. I prayed to see the truth. I prayed to know the truth. I would sit in my room and say, okay, the wall is blue or the wall is pink. I would practice saying the truth, speaking the truth, because I knew what it felt like to for someone not to. And one of the things that is so important that I realized as a child, that it's so many things that intertwine with this, that mingled with these truths that I was learning in life. My mother's words of wisdom, learning through observation and other people's experiences. I wanted to learn. I wanted to be a student of life. It wasn't about mistakes. It was about life lessons, learning life lessons, that the world was the classroom, and you would experience things. And as you go through any school, you learn what to do and what not to do, and how it can be important to learn from others' errors and ways. And one of the things that I learned was, and I believe that with my father, I believe that when we end up indulging in things, that we tend to not face our emotions and feelings, that we want to cover them up or numb them with different things, anything. It could be with over cleaning, it could be overeating, over exercise, over under exercising, under eating, that we are trying to maintain some control in our life because we feel like a certain portion of our life is out of control. And so I knew that no matter what I did, no matter if I overeat, overdrank, whatever it was, I still had to come back to my truth. And that was one of the things I learned by, of not having my biological father in my life growing up, that I wanted to face my truth. And so combine that with someone who projected their pain on me and not owning that truth, even years later saying that it never happened. I never did anything like that. That was such and such. But also, too, hearing my mother say this principle that if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. That means that whatever I do for you, for me, whatever I do for you, whatever I say I'm going to do, I'm gonna give you that. I'm going to do it. And if there was something that I felt comfortable with my mother, if there was something that she did or she said, I often told her, that I remember telling her older, Mom, you didn't hug us a whole lot, so I want a hug. And she started hugging more. And my mother was the kissy cheek person. I loved her kisses on my cheek. But anyway, I digress. So, but I wanted to say that, just in taking this moment to share the importance of principles, the importance of how they can be the root of who you are, how they can heal you, and how our life experiences can revolve around that. They can help us to heal, to clean up, to feel our emotions and our feelings, and to allow them to guide our healing instead of to stuff us with additional pain, because we can allow our emotions and feelings to either direct our past in a negative way, in a harmful way, or we can allow it to say, okay, nobody else needs to go through that. I'm going to try my best to not to not cause that kind of pain or similar pain on others. And that was one of the things that I prayed for, is that I didn't want to be someone who caused that type of pain, a similar pain on others, and that I would even go through it again myself. Now, I've had my experiences, and even as a mother, how that principle has helped probably my children, hearing people say things and knowing when they come to me that if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and how that can feed into the next generation, how that can help them heal. Because if we're honest, if we expect honesty, that we're honest with ourselves, truth telling, that means we have nothing to hide, that we can be our authentic self, that we can cultivate or become true self-expression, that we don't need to overindulge in things, because there's no need to numb something. There's no need to cover it up, because we're going to be truthful to ourselves, because we know that no matter what, I'll always come back to my truth, and I might as well do it now versus do it later. And so as I, talked about, shared, that I believe that truth comes in many forms. And I've shared how when I was younger, my mother told me another principle that I talk about in my book, The Inner Garden, is that she encouraged me to know God for myself, and that God was not in a building. He was actually in my heart. So I'm sharing two of those principles, and how during my early years, I I got a Bible. I was going to church, and my aunt said, "Hey, I said, what is this?" And she was like, "Take it. It's yours." And I went home and I read it, and it wasn't for me about being religious. It was one of the major texts that I believe sowed many seeds within me. And one of them, you think about around this time, around that age, 10 years old or so, that I learned a biblical principle, that the truth will set you free. So during that time, I believe I had a lot of confirmation, a lot of affirmations, affirming what I wanted dearly, wanted to know this this power that I thought was outside of me and later learned was inside of me, and later learned there are universal truths that spread throughout this wisdom, traditional wisdom that we have out here, that there is a unifying bridge. And one of that is the power of truth, the power of spirit, that there is something that created all of us, and that I believe through this spirit, we are not defined by our experiences, that we can use our life experiences to help us to become more of who we really are, that they are opportunities to cultivate that inner garden that helps to bridge this human these human genes, this human entity that we have of different genes that come together that make us unique, and this spiritual genetic blueprint that we have too as well from the greater spirit. We are a microcosm of the spirit, and how we evolve and align with that spirit, that no matter what form I take, and when I say form, I'm talking about our shape, our color, all of that. No matter what form I take, I can still be me. No matter what happens to me, I can still be me. And it's a process. I believe spirit is about process. Some take longer, some take shorter. Sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to see the truth, to recognize the truth, to live by that truth. And that is the human journey, that we're not going to always get it right then and there. And that to me is the underlying truth, again, of healing, that everything is a process. There is a time, there's a place, there's a season. And it's not about being for one thing, but seeing the truth in all things. And so just knowing that principle, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, that, it helped to promote truth within me. It helped me to expect truth, that when people speak to me, I like to see, I like to believe you. I have discernment. I want to use discernment, but I want to believe that you're saying and you're doing what you're doing, because I want to see the truth. Right. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially when you're using the power of discernment, that you want to see the good in others, yet still you recognize that we all can be at different stages in our lives, that we may not have the full knowledge of a certain truth. And I think that's all about being honest. And with my mother, she always, she majority of the time, most of the time, I mean, I hate to say 100% of the time, because I don't want to come across as being so biased, but majority of the time, when my mother said that she was going to do something, she did it. And that built up confidence, that built up my self-esteem, my value, worth, that helped me to, again, see the best in people, and believe and pray for. Let me see the honesty in people. The innocence is actually what I said. Let me see the innocence in people when you think about spirit. So when you have that validation, whether you're a parent that wants to give it to your child, or whether you're in a relationship with your significant other, or whether your marriage, or whether it's your friendship, your association with others, the power of integrity, the power of truth, how it can turn any relationship around to be healthier, to be harmonious. And again, it's not about expecting an immediate return to truth, but in knowing that you remain true to yourselves, that your experiences do not define you, no matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody does, that you're going to be one who upholds the truth, that you're going to be the one that believe that your word is law, that you're going to be the one that really think about what you are going to do, your actions, before you do it, because you want to ensure that you are in alignment with your truth. You're in alignment with your words. And anytime that I am not able to keep my word with my children per se, I will acknowledge I said this and this has come up. Can you give me 20 minutes? Can you give me a specific time? Because I know that things will happen. And for me, I believe life is about no guilt. No guilt. It's about you're still being honest. And sometimes I put whatever it is aside. Sometimes I'll say, hey, can I have 20 more minutes? Because no matter what, if you're a parent, your children hear you. They're watching you. Your friends are watching you. And even though people may not say things in the moment, it can come up in later conversations. It has for me, even with my spouse, with my mother, with my children, not often, but enough that it causes you to think and say, okay, what seeds am I cultivating in my inner garden? Am I still cultivating integrity? The very thing that I wanted someone to be truthful to me. You want someone to be truthful to you, right? And so, am I cultivating truth? Am I cultivating honesty? Am I cultivating integrity? Am I cultivating compassion? Because when you want to speak the truth, you're having compassion, empathy. Am I cultivating empathy? Because when we do one thing, one virtue, many of these other virtues are hooked together. Just like when we cultivate weeds, like I talk about in the book, like for instance, oh gosh, I'm drawing a mind blank. But when we cultivate weeds, say for instance, like selfishness, there other weeds will come and aggregate, right? It becomes a patch of weeds. Well, it's the same thing for virtues. That one virtue can lead to another virtue, to another virtue, to another virtue. It is an awakening that happens when we go from virtue to virtue and virtue. And we practice that. We're not only just saying it, but we become the virtues in themselves just as easily as we can become the weeds themselves. Having those negative thoughts and having prolonged anxiety, prolonged anger, shame, guilt, vengeance, that we can become what we speak. We become what we cultivate inside of our inner garden, that the physical is just a reflection of the internal, the inner. And so the power of words, the power of how they can help you to become more of who you are, help you to look at people and relationships and your actions and your words through different lenses, how they can shape your experiences. Because if you believe in the law of attraction, which I believe that the more we become something, the more we put out there, the more that comes back to us in that shape, in that form. And often, of course, in different forms, different people, different experiences. But the more that we speak honesty, the more we're putting that out there in the world versus jealousy, versus envy. Because we know that the world consciousness can affect individual consciousness, just like individual consciousness, what we cultivate on the inside can affect the world itself. So I just wanted to share that. And when I talk about the Bible, know that it is one of the books that I grew up reading to help me. And like I said, I do not limit the truth to a book. The truth cannot be limited to any book, to any one form, because it is everywhere and anywhere, and wherever where is, that's where it is. And so it's more about this unifying mindset that truth exists in all forms, and that it will be whatever it needs to be to pull you more into who you really are, to grow you into that. And so that's one of the things that I'm sharing with you today is my mother's words of wisdom in healing from the inside out. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I believe it was Florence Scovel Shin, I believe, that really promoted that your word is law. It becomes a principle that you live by. It's a principle that you expect. It is a standard that you have in your relationships. It is one that you not only talk about, but you are about it. You do it, right? So, all right. So, thank you so much for listening. I hope this podcast episode has been beneficial to you on Heal from the Inside Out. Check out my Wednesdays podcast on the Seeds We Plant series, where I really to try to look at parenting, and it's not just parenting, but the seeds we plant in ourselves, and the seeds that we plant in our relationships, and the seeds that we plant in the world. So this one specifically is about is taking that pain that we have and allowing it to help us to heal from it, allowing us to see, okay, this is not how I want to treat people, and opening up that space for how you want to be treated and how you want to treat others. I'll talk to you soon. I'll put the link to my book in this podcast description, as well as my newsletter, Notes on Life, empowering you to be you. I'll talk to you soon.